Hello, class. So this is a review on the ancient Hebrews and Judaism, and I'm going to go through all the main ideas that are addressed in the study guide, but I'm going to do it in a way where I'm going in kind of chronological order, meaning, um, you know, from the first events to the last events. All right, so here we have a picture of the Exodus. That would be Moses in the front leading his people, the Hebrews, out of Egypt. All right, so first let's start off with some important people. This will be a matching section of the test, and you'll have to know which of these people matches to their description. So first we have Abraham. Here's a picture of Abraham and his son Isaac, probably the story that you saw in the DBQ on the Hebrew Bible. So the definition for Abraham that you need to know is, according to the Bible, God led this man to Canaan, and his descendants became the Hebrew people. Next, we have Moses. Again, here's another picture, another different depiction, another interpretation of the Exodus, right, where he leads the Hebrews out of Egypt. Looks like here through the Red Sea. And the definition for that is, according to the Hebrew people, he led the Hebrew people. According to the Hebrew Bible, he led the Hebrew people out of Egypt and back to Canaan. Next, we have David, and here's a picture of the story of David and Goliath, which was also one of the stories in the activity we did. He was a king of Israel, and he defeated the Philistines, right, because Goliath was a Philistine, and established the capital in Jerusalem. Next, we have Solomon, and this picture shows another one of the stories where he had to determine which woman was the real mother. So he said, "Oh, what's fair is let's split the baby in half." And then the real mother was like, "No, don't do it. Just give my baby to her. I don't want my baby to be harmed." And that told Solomon who the real mother was. So he was a king of Israel. He formed alliances with nearby kingdoms and built a temple to God in Jerusalem. And our final important person is Yohanan ben Zakkai. He founded a school near Jerusalem that taught people about Judaism and trained them to be rabbis. All right, so moving on. So one of the ideas on the review is that Hammurabi was the leader of Mesopotamia that was famous for his code of laws, a little like Moses. So there will be a question on the test that asks you about this, and you're thinking back on what we learned about Mesopotamia. Code of laws, like Moses, would be Hammurabi. So Judaism was the first known religion to practice monotheism, which means a belief in one God. And the four central beliefs of Judaism are: one, right, it's a belief in one God, only one. So monotheistic, not polytheistic, not a belief in more than one God. Two, belief in education. Three, belief in justice and righteousness. And four, belief in obedience and law. So we did our activity on the Hebrew Bible where you looked at different stories and determined which of the stories showed which of the central beliefs. These are the four beliefs. All right, so this is, I think, the only map you need to be familiar with for the test. This map shows the Exodus, which was the journey of the Hebrews from Egypt to Canaan after they were freed from slavery. Right, so that's a definition you need to know. Exodus, the journey of the Hebrews from Egypt to Canaan after they were freed from slavery. So when you see this map, you see the arrow goes from Egypt, right, to Mount Sinai, and then kind of goes around that peninsula, the Arabic Peninsula, and finally goes up into Canaan, which is, right, the Exodus. Passover is a holiday on which Jews remember the Exodus, and it's still celebrated today by Jews around the world. The Bible states that in their journey out of Egypt, right, which is the Exodus and the events thereafter, the 10 Commandments were given to Moses by God. They were a code of law. They were a code of laws telling the Hebrews how to live their lives. So I believe that there will be a question on the Ten Commandments in terms of the definition, right? That might be matching, and then who gave who did God give, according to the Hebrew Bible, who did God give these 10 commandments to? Well, that would be Moses. Later in Hebrew history, Ruth was seen as a model of devotion to one's family. She took care of her mother-in-law, Naomi, which was another story that we saw, right? Her husband died, Naomi's son died, and so they felt like, we don't have anyone to take care of us. So Ruth put it upon herself to support her mother and live with her mother-in-law, and that's how the story went. The Torah is the most sacred text of Judaism, and I believe the Torah is the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible, of the Tanakh. Zealots were radical Jews who supported rebellion against the Romans. So because this ideology, this religion, this belief system, Judaism is so different, right, in that it is one God, right, monotheistic, it kind of led to a lot of people not understanding it and mistreating the Jews as a result. So Zealots were radical Jews who supported rebellion against the Romans. You need to remember that the Romans were the group most responsible for the migration of Jews out of Jerusalem to other parts of the Mediterranean region. And that the Romans destroyed the Second Temple, a huge loss for the Jews. Thousands of Jews still visit the Western retaining wall to pay their respects, so the wall that's left standing. And this is called the Wailing Wall. That's what it's referred to today, for obvious purposes, right? Wailing is crying, right? Connecting it to that horrible loss for the Jewish people when it was destroyed by the Romans. So here's a picture of it in modern times, and you can see how the people gather there. And they pray, and it's an important place for a lot of people. The word for the scattering of the Jews outside of Israel and Judah is diaspora. That's right. One of the previous slides said that the Romans were the main group that caused that, but it just means that the Jews were forced out of the area, and so they moved into different places all over the world. The 2 major world religions that Judaism led to are Christianity and Islam. This is a really important idea just to understand, to know, just to be educated and to be knowledgeable, right? So there was Judaism, and then around, between year 0 and year 30, Jesus came along, and he was raised a Jewish person, right? He was a Jewish man, and he started a new religion with Christianity. And then some hundreds of years later, another prophet came along and started Islam. And Islam has its roots in, I believe, one of Abraham's sons, Ishmael, I think is the roots there. But all you need to know is that the 2 major world religions that Judaism led to are Christianity and Islam.